On January 13th, 2018, residents of Hawaii received the following message via cell phones, radio, and television. A nuclear missile was coming, touchdown was imminent, mass destruction would surely ensue, and the only advice offered was to seek shelter. Hardly comforting. For 38 minutes, the people of Hawaii feared their world was soon coming to an end, and all that was left to do was to contact loved ones, say goodbyes, and wait for an assured demise. But then all that panic and fear ended when it was revealed that it was simply a false alarm. The message was accidentally sent to everyone, and the chaos was a result of human error. The event, while thankfully not tragic, certainly left some psychological damage on the people of Hawaii, damage that is echoed by the other instances of human history in which atomic war seemed imminent. Nuclear fear has gripped society since the 1930s and 1940s, and while it has affected certain generations more than others, there's no denying its psychological toll. So today, in this episode of Psychology of Gaming, the series where we look at how psychological principles are worked into games and how games can affect us psychologically, we take a look at Fallout 4's opener and its roots in nuclear fear. The threat of nuclear apocalypse has kept a lot of Americans awake at night, but none more so than those born in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s who grew up during the height of the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union. The first 20 years of our lives are the most formative for the mind and the worldviews we form, and growing up in a world where at any second all life could be blown to hell has a lot of ramifications for psychological development. If tensions between the two powerhouses of the Cold War ever reached their tipping point, mutually assured destruction was guaranteed, as both sides would have launched nuclear missiles, wiping out all human life in many parts of those landmasses. And those near tipping points almost happened a few times, most threatening of which was the Cuban Missile Crisis in October of 1962. And for the everyday American, the fate of their own lives and those of their families were out of their control, instead being at the mercy of clashing political ideologies and the temperaments of world leaders. I mean, imagine the toll taken on each person knowing their own lives were out of their control. It can be psychologically maddening and lead to many instances of intense anxiety, fear, and helplessness, all of which can cripple a person's life. To give some sort of semblance of control over the situation, people came up with ways to feel like they could save themselves from disaster, like constructing bomb shelters to hide in. This illusion of power over the situation was all that kept some people sane, but it certainly was an illusion. All it takes is one look at the children's educational cartoon, Duck and Cover, to see this. In this video shown off to American children all over the country, students were advised to, well, duck and cover under their desks or against a wall if they saw a bright flash signaling a nuclear detonation. Now, let's take a minute to think about that. How is hiding under a desk or against a building wall going to protect anyone from an atomic bomb detonating close by? The simple answer, it won't. But the human brain needs to feel in control, especially when it comes to survival, and that really explains the seeming illogical thought process behind it all. It's why so many adults experienced a partial detachment from reality, ignoring the existence of nukes in order to cope with everyday life, because we can only function properly when we feel we have some level of control over our lives, or at least that control hasn't been taken away. And for the most part, that's how people lived in a world threatened by nukes, by either being consumed with anxiety about the world ending at any moment without warning, or by having a break in the psyche that allowed them to disassociate with the threat in order to live their everyday lives. All of it was a reaction to having no control over the predicament, and the opening half hour of Fallout 4 puts a lot of this on display. The game opens up with a black and white monologue outlining the world of Fallout and how war never changes and how the threat of nuclear annihilation was ever present. The opening cutscene depicts a world that has turned a blind eye to a looming threat, a world that has chosen mass consumerism as a distraction from catastrophic potential that was out of their hands. Yet, in the Fallout world, much of the boom in consumerism was due to the development of atomic technologies. It's fitting then that items like Nuka-Cola and the Blast Radius board game have obvious ties to an atomic theme. It symbolizes how even though people use consumerism as a way to disassociate with the threat of atomic war, they can never truly escape the fact that it's a part of the world they live in. It's an exaggerated take on 1950s American consumerism culture while also reflecting the nuclear threat that was looming over it all. As the player explores the home, they soon meet Codsworth, the family's robot butler, which is also fueled by atomic energy. It's another example of what I just discussed. Soon, a Vault-Tec representative comes knocking at the door, and he really symbolizes a sense of control that people were psychologically seeking during the Cold War. He offers up a chance to survive, a place where you, your family, and society itself could dwell for protection when the atomic bombs inevitably dropped. The vaults represent the same mindset as those who built makeshift bomb shelters to protect themselves, an opportunity to survive and potentially thrive later on. Vault-Tec, despite having serious malintent, offered people what they needed most at the surface level: peace of mind and security, and it's why so many people would have signed up for this service had it been available in real life. It's a way for the people of the Fallout world to ease their anxious minds over the fear of those sirens blaring. And it doesn't take too much longer for the sirens in-game to do just that. Mass panic ensues as people realize a barrage of nuclear missiles are coming their way, and that it's truly the end of life as they know it. Some stand on the streets in disbelief that this could really be the end, clearly having spent most of their days assuming those missiles would never come, despite the very real chance that they would. Others hurry as quickly as possible up to the local vault, hoping to get inside before the bombs make impact. At the front gate, a Vault-Tec employee is turned away. He's in shock that his employment doesn't grant him access. As you enter the vault, a bomb explodes in the distance. That infamous mushroom cloud appears, and right before a rush of air blows everyone away, the vault doors open and lower the people into their new homes. For many, the sight of those bombs detonating were their worst fear for our real world. Japan had been hit twice by the atomic bomb, and the results were catastrophic. To imagine the whole world having the same fate was unbearable for many, and it had a severe psychological toll. And guess what? Unlike in Fallout 4, there would be no amazing adventure through the wasteland waiting for any people who survived had the bombs really detonated. Obviously, the pre-bomb moments of Fallout 4 are just a small part of the game, but they give some insight on the nuclear fear that gripped Americans during the Cold War, and really, the world at large. People either accepted a misnomer that there was absolutely no way the bombs would actually drop, or they lived in a state of constant anxiety and fear in the back of their minds. That's not to say society collapsed under fear, not at all. but it was certainly something that weighed heavy on the minds of many people, especially during close calls with the Soviet Union. And Fallout 4's opener gives us a brief glance into this world and the mindsets that made it up, and it's why I enjoyed taking a look at it in this episode of Psychology of Gaming. So go ahead and be sure to check out the rest of the playlist for this series. I'm sure I've covered a game by now that you love. I also have some other great videos to watch, like a 2.5-hour critique of Sly Cooper 1, and a 45-minute long narrative analysis of What Remains of Edith Finch. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing for more, follow me on Twitter at NopNapNarp, and as always, have a nice day, and take care.